Hey guys, Denise Salcedo here with Instinct Culture, and today we are in Hollywood for the premiere of the 350 Days movie. You've done both MMA and wrestling. Which has been the most difficult?
Well, I mean, you'd really have to define in what ways you feel, you know, you're going to consider something difficult, because each is difficult really really in its own sense. With MMA, obviously, the training camps and the level of competition and the fact that someone's literally trying to kill you for every second that you're in there is fairly a difficult equation to solve. But wrestling brings a whole other element. Still involves physicality, athleticism, a lot of it. Still, in some ways, involves someone trying to kill you, depending on how well you get on with them. But it's the ability to tell that story in the ring with your movements, with your emotions, with just, I mean, I guess in some ways there are some interpretive dance elements to it, but it is a very violent dance, so they're both quite difficult.
You've been bringing something different to color commentating. You've been treating it more like a sport, more with realism. How did that come about for you, or was that something that you always just kind of had, that's how you always wanted to treat it?
Well, I mean, when I was a kid growing up with wrestling, for all of us, it was 100% real. But my roots as a fighter come from professional wrestling, from the Carl Gotch and Billy Robinson lineage. Those guys were all legitimate fighters. You know, they had the skills to go out there and back it up, and would go out there and work matches. Another one of my coaches in professional wrestling is Antonio Inoki, another man who is also trained by Carl Gotch. He is a shooter, he is a worker, he is everything and then and before wrestling became how we know it today, it was the MMA of its time. So to me, to go out there and to find wrestling that is treated in a sense in where it's not respected, it's not treated with the element of reality to it, where it's not looked at as a sport, where it's considered more vaudevillian than anything, that's everywhere. I mean, most wrestlers can't even wrestle anymore. Everybody's in the club now. There's a wrestling school everywhere. Anyone can throw their money down, and all of a sudden they're a wrestler. That's not the coaches that I came from. That's not the lineage that I come from. You didn't just get to be in it. You had to earn your way, and not everyone could make it. So for me, I want to bring it back to that, because the foundations of the reality of wrestling is what still is keeping wrestling together. Because as soon as there is no belief that you're watching two opponents trying to go out there and win a contest, as a combat sport, a conflict that means something, that what they do actually has stakes, it's gone.
Do you think that's why Ronda Rousey's doing so well, just because she treats it so differently in the ring?
I think she's doing well because she had a big name. She's a great athlete. She took to the training seriously and picked up on some of the important elements about it, but also because anything she does, everyone already respects. And, you know, my student Shayna Baszler is someone that I trained from Get. She's even more in the reality vein. I would say that in terms of the way that they work in the ring, if we're, you know, speaking behind the curtain, Ronda is more sports entertainment than Shayna is. I mean, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but Shayna is more down that narrow path of keeping it more tightly, more realistic, and she's the NXT champion. And I think that with Shayna, one of my biggest things that I had to explain to her was, like, do less. Everything you do is already, everybody believes it. When everyone knows that you're an actual fighter, that you have the skills to back up what it is that you do in the ring, everything you do, every punch, every kick, and anything you do matters. And the more you get out of the more you go outside of that box of reality, the more you risk having them go, okay, this is bullshit. Yeah.
So will we ever see you return to the ring?
Yeah, just takes the right time, right place, and the schedule to do so. I'm planning to get back in the MMA ring sometime next year, and I'm definitely putting wrestling as something in the nearer horizon. I didn't ever decide to be out of wrestling. It's just that with the way the promotional contracts are with MMA, it just wasn't so much of an option when I was under Zuffa when they owned Strikeforce and also with the UFC.
So now, I was at the recent New Japan show in San Francisco, and unfortunately, there was an unfortunate event with Jim Ross where he did get hurt. Can you tell us anything about how everything happened? I mean, we saw it on TV, but from your perspective, how everything went down, and even now, if you have any updates on Jim Ross.
Jim's got an injured rib. That much is for sure. He'll heal up, but it's going to take some time. And ribs are a delicate matter because it's the kind of thing that you feel that aggravation in everything you do. Coughing, whether you got to get up in the morning after your morning coffee and go take a seat on the throne, court's in session, and it just seems like the jester keeps hitting you in the side of the body. But he'll get past it. He's a tough old bird, and I have no doubt that he'll make a full recovery. But the railings themselves, the guardrails down around the ring, were not linked up. And when these guys went hurling into it the first time, they were all over the place. It looked like bowling pins going everywhere. And Jay White, Switchblade, went and grabbed Juice Robinson in a half-hatch suplex, slung him into the railing. That railing careened into our table, knocked all of our stuff down, disrupted our broadcast, and sent the table right into Jim Ross, who was sitting there ringside, sending him backwards into the railing behind him. And it was unavoidable circumstance, but at the same time, what do you expect out of a heel like Jay White?
Well, you definitely got a lot of good heel heat. And last question, I won't keep you here any longer. I just want to know, what are your thoughts on Ring of Honor New Japan next year at Madison Square Garden?
Just found out about it, and I think now it's really too early to say, but I think the possibilities that exist are pretty fantastic, and with just the potential that exists there, it's a step in the right direction. It also says a lot about New Japan's expansion into the U.S. I'm sure it's going to ruffle some feathers.
As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a big fat like, subscribe to my channel for more, and in the comments below, let me know what you guys thought of all of these interviews and who was your favorite.